Hello, sixth graders. This is Mr. Shear, and today we're going to focus on a practice test in order to get you ready for your real test, which is tomorrow. So at the Google Meet today, if you come, just know that we will mostly just be doing a couple practice problems together, and then I'm going to give you most of the time to work on your ALEKS assignment. So your assignment today is ALEKS. It's a practice test in ALEKS. Tomorrow, the real test will be posted also in ALEKS, just like your first test we took in this class. The topic of the test is decimals. There are 20 questions. Tomorrow, when you have the actual test, there will be no Google Meet. Use the time to complete your test. There are no surprise questions. There's no calculators on the test, which I can't enforce, so you got to be on your honor system for that. And then when you test, you'll have till 4 o'clock on Thursday. But today is practice test. We'll talk more about the test protocols in the video when I actually talk about the test on Thursday. Today is a practice test. Really try not to use a calculator on this. Again, this is all stuff if we were in regular school where you would have to prove you could do without a calculator. So this will be what's on the test, both the practice and the real test. We're going to look at decimal place value, converting, naming decimals, and ordering decimals least to greatest. And then you'll have to add, subtract, multiply, and divide decimals, including one where you'll want to use the dividing decimals by power of 10 shortcut. So I'm just going to jump right into each of these topics with an example. So we're going to start with decimal place value. Don't forget, decimals follow the same place value that you learned when you were a little kid, except there's no ones column. It starts with the tens, and they all end in THS. So it goes tenths, hundredths, third number behind the decimal is thousands, fourth number is 10 thousandths, and the last, or on this screen, the last number, the fifth number would be 100 thousandths. So an example question of what you'll see on your test is give the digits in the ones place and the tens place. Well, hopefully this is easy for you. And you know the ones place would be the 3. And the first number past the decimal is the tenths. So it would be the 1 is in the tenths place. Okay, another type of question you'll have on place value is you'll have a decimal written out in long form, and you need to write it as a decimal. So it'll be written in word form, and you need to write it as a decimal. So in the italicized words there, it says 8 and 94 thousandths. Just to remind you, you always say and where there should be a decimal place. So this would be 8 and 94 thousandths. It ends in the thousandths place. Okay, next up we got converting fractions and decimals. So this is a decimal, and you'll have questions where they want you to convert it to a fraction. So don't forget, you just put the 45 above the decimal place value, so in this case 100, and then simplest form means reduce. So in this case I reduce both the top and the bottom by 5, and my answer would be 9/20. It'd be 45 over 100 because it ends in the hundredths place, and then I would reduce. Let's go back the other way. So now what if you have a fraction and you have to write it as a decimal? That's where you divide the top by the bottom. And again, I'm asking you not to use a calculator, so it's a long division question. And I'll try to keep, hopefully the test will keep that one pretty simple. But 7 divided by 8, if you work it out in long division form, is 0.875. It's top divided by bottom. Okay, what about converting percents and decimals? So again, this is review. Hopefully you got this by now. But you'll get a question or two that looks like this, converting between percents and decimals. Write 5.9% as a decimal, and write 0.751 as a percent. It's a two-part problem. So to change this percent into a decimal, you move the decimal 2 to the left. And if we move this to the left, 1, 2, we're going to have 0.059. To change this decimal into a percent, you move 2 to the right, 1, 2, and 75.1%. Okay, another type of question you'll have will be ordering decimals. So you have one question like this where it says order these numbers from least to greatest. And again, you can always pause your video if you want to try and follow this on your own. And at the meet today, we'll be doing some examples together. But if we take a look at these 4 numbers they've put up here, they all start with 2, and they all have a decimal. So we look to see what the next smallest number is, in this case 3. We look to see what the next smallest number is. We got a 0 here, and an 8 here, then we et cetera, et cetera. Hopefully, if you were to put them in order, you would know that you just go towards the right, looking at the place value each time. That's the least to greatest. All right, and then we get into the adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing of decimals. We'll start with adding. So a question you'll have on both your practice test and your actual test will be this. Add 2 decimal numbers. And I want to remind you the decimals do not, you want to line them up by decimal. So you do line them up by decimal. You can add zeros if necessary, but you line them up by decimals, and then it's just normal addition. And hopefully you get 29.05. Same thing with subtracting decimals. You want to line up by decimal. So again, they might not necessarily look like they're going to line up, but you would put the 33.9 and you would line up by decimals. If you want to try and solve this on your own, you can pause the video now. But you'd end up with 30.68. All right, we got multiplying decimals up next. And on this one, you do not need to line up by decimals. With multiplying decimals, you do not need to line up by decimals. Hopefully you got that by now. We've been working on this for a couple weeks. You do not need to line up by decimals. You just do your multiplication problem like normal, and then you count how many numbers behind decimals in the whole problem. So I got 1, 2, 3, 4. And when I get my answer, I'm going to go 4 places from the back to the front, and that's how I'm going to place my decimals. There'll be 4 numbers behind decimals in my answers. If you want to solve this, go ahead and pause the video now. But here you go. So again, this is a big multiplication problem. You'll want scratch paper for both the practice and the real test. But you're going to work it all the way out, and then to place the decimal, 1, 2, 3, 4 numbers behind decimals, 1, 2, 3, 4 numbers behind decimals in your answer. Okay, next up we got dividing decimals. And this is the type where you cannot divide by a decimal. So you have to move it over. Whatever number you put outside the box, the divisor tells you how many times you have to move the decimal. So I move the decimal once because I can't divide by a decimal. And if I move it once there to make this a normal 2, I got to move it once here. And what I really have is 85.4 divided by 2. Pause your video now if you want a chance to solve. And I'm going to throw the answer up on the screen. 42.7. I know dividing decimals is hard for some of you guys. Again, we're practicing today, so if you still struggle with this, you can always stick around at the end of the Google Meet, or you can send me an email that you want a little bit of help before your test tomorrow. And lastly, something most of you guys I think did pretty well on, this is dividing decimals by power of 10. It's a shortcut. This is what we did most recently. But when you divide by a power of 10, like 10, 100, or 1,000, You can always just count the number of zeros, so in this case 3, and move the decimal that many places to the left. So count the number of zeros in the divisor, in this case 3, and move the decimal that many places to the left. That would give you an answer of 0.0964, or 964 ten-thousandths. Okay, so best of luck both on your practice test today. If you come to the Google Meet, we're just going to be working through example problems from the test. Best of luck on your practice test today, and then you got your real test tomorrow. So your test is on Thursday. It'll be due by 4 o'clock on Thursday. You can always have an extension, but you need to email me before 4 o'clock if you're going to need more time, and I can always extend it for you. Again, I want to help you, so if you're struggling on any of these review questions, if this made no sense to you, shoot me an email and we'll do our best to connect and get you some help before your test tomorrow. Thanks for watching, 6th graders. Have a great rest of your day.